Good evening. This meeting for the Rancho Public Board of Education for Monday, September 12th, 2022 is now called to order. If all would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Jeffrey Morgan will start us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kim, can you take a roll call for us?
President Galbraith,
Present?
Vice President Morgan, Secretary Scott,
Present.
Board Member Tripp, not here. Board Member Tyler.
Present.
You have quorum 4-0.
Thank you. We'd like to excuse Board Member Tripp tonight. He is traveling currently. We'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. We have a lot of visitors here, including our mayor who's here with us. We're happy to have you. We also have a lot of students who are here, and we're so excited to have you here with us as well. Tonight, our evening will start with some introductory comments by our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Visu Cleveland.
Good evening, and thank you all for being here this evening. Okay, we are past the 20th day of the school year, and things continue to move at a really fast pace, and a lot of issues are getting resolved, and so we're moving right along. It's hard to fathom that we're already into the 5th week of the school year. We do continue to monitor our enrollment. Overall, the enrollment is down just slightly compared to approximately the same period last year. So about 1% is what it looks like. We are hoping to get that back up, but it is far better than almost everyone else around us. So we are pretty close to what we were last year. Our shining stars enrollment has increased. Elementary and high school enrollment is pretty flat. Where we've actually seen a loss of students this year is middle school, and that's something that I think is concerning. And so I think something we're going to need to take a look at as to why we have seen a reduction in middle schools. The Governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, and Education Secretary Kurt Steinhaus were in the district today. They came to Stapleton Elementary at noon to make an announcement regarding their goal of reducing the administrative burden, particularly paperwork. But not only that, improving our data sharing and accessibility of that data, especially for teachers, and that's something that we definitely find to be a very positive move. Measures are intended to help both teachers and administrators focus more on classroom teaching and learning, more easily access data to drive those instructional decisions, and cut down on data entry and other administrative paperwork. But again, the overall goal is to have teachers have more time to teach, and certainly that teaching and learning piece we heard over and over during the presentation today. And again, this is welcome news for school staff and districts. We've been asking for some relief for quite some time. The burden has become very excessive in our opinion, and we're hoping to see that move forward. Here's just a quick summary of staffing. One of the things that I also shared today with the governor, secretary, and media who were in attendance is we were appreciative of the improvement in compensation, and it has brought us a lot more applicants, but maybe more exciting than that is really high quality applicants. And we are seeing a lot of our students and former students and teachers coming back to New Mexico. And so it's overall been a very positive thing. And we are very thankful for that compensation increase that obviously the governor and secretary took a key role on, but also the New Mexico legislature who made that a reality in the last session. Here's our breakdown. We are still short 20 teachers. However, last year it was well over 100, and across the state we had better than 1,000 vacancies for the last couple of years. So this is a tremendous improvement. We are making a little bit of progress in educational assistance. That's been pretty slow. The board has a resolution encouraging the state to look at compensation for educational assistants, but we desperately need them in our classrooms, especially with our children with disabilities. And so we're continuing to work on that. We're down 6 custodians and 3 bus drivers, but again, far better than what we've had. So keep working on that. And overall, it's just such an improvement over the last couple of years. This evening, we have Commendations. The Schumann Foundation is here again, and we're always so pleased to have you come and be part of our board meeting. Certainly, their support for Naviance, for the Naviance program, and it will be presented by our Executive Director of Student Service, Sherry Carver, and we are pleased to have Schumann Foundation President Tim Sheehan, and I have not seen Commissioner Heil yet, but we do have our mayor, Greg Hull. So welcome and thank you for being here. And we also have a commendation related to Educators Rising, and Cleveland High School student placed first, and both Rio Rancho and Cleveland High students had a semifinalist. And this is from a program we call Educator Rising National Conference. And this will be presented by Larry Davis, a principal of the Career Technical Education Center. But just briefly, the goal is to bring more of our students into public education. And it's such an important thing to do. We certainly need to have more teachers in our classrooms. And you can see the efforts in improved compensations help. But the long-term solution is to get some of our strong young people to enter into the colleges of education and to be teachers. And so we're excited to see this organization, appreciate the hard work that's been done at our high schools, and we'll recognize those students who did very well at the national conference. We will have some reports and departmental updates. Chief Operations Officer Michael Baker will provide an explanation of the capital outlay, state match, and legislative offsets. We had some board members ask if they could have more information about that so they could understand it a little bit better, especially when they talk with legislators about it and what it would mean to our district. And so we're going to have an explanation of how that works. The Executive Director of Student Services, Sherry Carver, will present a departmental update on all the things that are going on in her department. These include information on safety and wellness, our staffing in that area, future opportunities and initiatives, challenges, and then she has some celebrations to share with you. And then last, but certainly not least, our Chief Communications Strategy and Engagement Officer, Beth Pendergrass, will provide you with an update on communications and the outreach activities in her department, some of the new initiatives, and some highlights and successes and challenges and future planning. So we will have those 3 presentations this evening. Then getting to our business portion of the meeting, you'll be asked to consider approval of an agreement with the New Mexico School for the Deaf. The board is asked to consider approval of a joint powers agreement to provide certain services for our students with hearing disabilities as indicated in the student's IEP. And what I want you to know is we provide services both for the district and within the district, and some we provide with this particular organization, the state school. And Jerry Reeder will explain to you kind of the services that they provide when he presents this agenda item. I do want you to know that within the deaf community, there are some parents who want a very integrated education for their children. And then there are some parents who want more immersion into the hearing impaired community. And so we try to provide services regardless of which view they hold and what they believe is best for their children. We will share with you Rio Rancho Public Schools preventative maintenance plan for this upcoming school year. As you well know, a preventative maintenance plan aids in the shift from a reactive to proactive approach to maintenance, repairs, and replacements. And as we all know, you can pay now or you can pay a whole lot more later if you don't maintain the equipment and the buildings that you have. And so she'll share with you, Melanie Archibek, the Executive Director of Facilities, will share with you an overview of the plan and discuss with you a little bit of information about the maintenance staff and the things they do and how their department operates. We have, as you know, several years ago, when we began to close the old Ernie Stapleton site, there was a lot of question about what to do with Enchanted Mesa. And we're worried about where we were going to take kids and believe the program provides a wonderful service for our staff and keeps our staff in our district. And so this lease agreement is with the Garza Group, and it's for the Northern Boulevard facility that houses the Enchanted Mesa Daycare program. And a lot of work went into developing that partnership. Carl Leppelman spent an awful lot of time on trying to get that arranged. And tonight, the actual lease agreement will be presented by Chief Counsel Lauren Hatch. And then we have an amendment to the contract, seamless summer and dinner meal prices. And this would amend the SFE management agreement, who of course provides our food service to the district, to establish pricing for meals during the summer program, which provides meal assistance to families during those months when schools are closed. And it also establishes a price for dinner. You recall the board has already looked at breakfast and lunch, but we do for some provide dinner, and it will establish a price for that. And this item will be presented by our purchasing director, Michael Madrid, and also Executive Director of Finance, David Vigil. You have some resolutions that you worked on as a board, and you will be asked to consider to adopt those resolutions, which will be then sent to the New Mexico School Boards Association Resolutions and Legislative Committee as proposal for legislative priorities for NMSBA for the 2023 session. Topics for these resolutions were discussed, and all of them were adopted by the board at the August 22nd meeting, and drafts were sent to all of the board for you to review on September the 2nd. The actual submission deadline is today, Monday, September 12th. However, the School Boards Association knew that I actually talked with Joe Gann, that we had a board meeting tonight, and he said it was perfectly fine to send the final adopted resolutions in the morning. So we will, if there are any additional changes, we'll make them early in the morning and then send it on to Mr. Gann. Here are all the resolutions. I'm not going to go through them because the board discussed every single one of those on the 22nd of August, but you can adopt them as a total group. We have not heard any significant changes proposed by school board members, but you can certainly take them one by one if you would prefer to do that. But we did, I think we're good with everyone who did make any suggestions. And then we have some second readings, which mean that the board will actually take action on 7 policies that were presented also at the August 22nd board meeting. And some of these changes reflect both regulatory requirements and recent state and federal court decisions. So these will be voted on this evening as this is a second reading. And those are all listed there. We have one on transportation, one on student rights and responsibilities, hazing, harassment, intimidation, bullying, menacing, restraint and seclusion, meetings of the board, agendas and order of business for board meetings, and minutes of the school board. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Any questions for Dr. Cleveland?
No question.
Okay. I just want to say thank you. I know you've had a very busy day with having the governor out in our schools today, so thank you.
It was very nice to have the governor. A lot of media was in the school, and the kids had a really good time. And you know, sometimes we get a little jaded as adults, maybe, I don't know. But it was exciting to see how exciting the kids were to see the governor. And, you know, just to be able to go home and say, I talked to her, I shook her hand, and she asked all of them that wanted to be governor, why they wanted to be governor. And we got some very interesting responses. So, but our kids were great and they did a great job. So it was a very busy day, but it was nice. It was nice to let the students have an opportunity to interact with the governor.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think they will always remember that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, for our next item, we'll approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations. Any changes that need to take place in that?
No, this is Secretary Noreen Scott. I move to approve the prioritized agenda and proposed time allocations.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, a second.
Okay, we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jeff Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, moving to our public comment. Let me get situated. Kim, we didn't have any in-person public comment, correct? Okay. So for our public comment, we don't have any in-person public comment tonight, but we do have some that came in through our form that is online. And so I will go ahead and summarize those that came in. We had 6 that came in. And our first was from Michelle Berkdahl. She was asking when we will have more in-person meetings for parents to be able to speak. Rebecca Costin, she had concerns with the Cleveland High School traffic going through the neighborhood that is there, along with concerns of students parking in the neighborhood to avoid parking passes. Paul Gruber, it was a letter overall in regards to critical race theory, transgenderism, sex education, and satanic clubs, stating being against those things in our schools. Charles Gannon regarding ELTP days not being an effective learning tool, asking that the district keep to a regular routine. Our next comment after that was similar. Sarah Nunn also opposed to those days, stating it was a hardship on families and that our extra 10 days are not helping our learning. And our last public comment was from Junko Nishida Boat. With concerns about student access to restrooms. And this was particularly, I believe, in the middle school for this one, but especially for our female students, stating that 3-minute passing periods are not enough time for multiple students to use the restroom. We will not comment on these as they're not on our agenda, but we appreciate those public comments coming into us. If anyone wishes to give public comment, you are welcome to come into our boardroom and give those. We love to hear your voices. Otherwise, you are also welcome to go to our public comment form, which is on our website under the board on the board page. So thank you once again for giving those public comments. And now moving into commendations. So our first commendation will be our Schumann Foundation Navient Funding presentation. Sherry Carver, our Executive Director of Student Services. We also have, as Dr. Cleveland said, we have Tim Sheehan, our President of the Schumann Foundation, and Mayor Greg Hull, who will all be here for this commendation. Thank you.
Good evening, President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. I'm pleased tonight to present to you the members of the Schumann Foundation. We have with us Tim Sheehan, who is the president of the foundation, and also board member Mayor Greg Hull. The foundation has been instrumental in supporting our Naviance program for the past several years. And this Naviance program is what our 8th through 12th grade students use for their required next step planning. They also use it for college and career planning, ACT prep, and course planning. I'm happy to tell you that we've added an updated curriculum to that program this year through Naviance. And it provides self-discovery lessons for planning for high school and beyond, including career exploration, career and college planning, financial planning, success skills, and it includes a support network. So thank you again for supporting this valuable program for our students. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the president.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. It's a pleasure to be back with you all again this year. And I just want to say that we are very proud to be here and support you all for the Naviance program on an annual basis. Just to give you a little update, We'll have to direct the mayor, okay? But just to give you an update of the Schumann Foundation, as a lot of you know, it was founded by Rear Admiral Schumann back in 2013. So we've been going almost 10 years so far, and we're averaging about $200,000 a year that we give out in scholarships to about 70 people. And it's young in all ages in Sandoval County. So it's making a difference. And we have a lot of people coming straight out of your schools. And then we're even, I think we're even financing somebody right now that's getting their PhD. So we go from one end to the other end.
Wow.
So we're really trying to make an impact in this community, and our board's proud to be part of this community. And for that, I have a $10,000 check for you to give you our annual support. Mayor, would you like to make a couple comments?
Yeah, sure. Number one, yeah, you got the check in here?
Yeah.
Anyway, who we're going to hand it to? Dr. Cleveland?
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. She gets the money. Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure it
We
gets
want to
the
make
right
sure that
way.
goes that way.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you it's been an honor to be a member of the Schumann Foundation all these years and see the number of individuals that we've helped in the higher education realm. Once again, not just graduates from high school, but individuals that live in Sandoval County that have decided, hey, we want to go back to school. We want to get that degree. We want to get that certificate. We want to get that next step that helps us get into that career field that, with the absolutely critical jobs all across Sandoval County that currently remain unfilled, just like here at the school district, businesses across Sandoval County are struggling. That's why we're also very excited about the CTE program coming forward, because I think that's really going to meet a demand for kids that want to get right to the workforce. I was one of those kids that I came out of high school and went right into the workforce. I was more interested in putting hand a lever than I was sitting in a seat for another 4 to 6 years. But there are those individuals out there. So the Schumann Foundation is here to support those individuals across the board, whether they're coming right out of high school or just making that decision to improve that educational level later in life. So very excited about that. And I think currently the Schumann Foundation is still sitting on, I think, around $2.7 million in available money that we want to continue to issue out to individuals. So we continue to encourage these individuals to go ahead and go to the Schumann Foundation, apply so that we can get on there. There's no deadline. We meet on a pretty regular basis to review applications as they come in. So it's a kind of ongoing process of evaluating the applications as they come in. So you can make that decision anytime. Just go online to the Schumann Foundation. We have a Facebook page and a website where you can download a form and access some of those funds. And I think our grants have gone anywhere from 1,000 up to 5,000, plus supporting the Naviance program and also supporting the Rotary nursing program here in Rio Rancho as well, as the Rotary gives out those scholarships as well. We're able to throw a little extra money on top of that and help those scholarship recipients actually receive more money to get them through that nursing or that doctor's program that they're trying to go through. What are we've got some other areas that we try to reach out to as well to make sure we're available to everybody. But it's a great program. And I know, I was going to say, yeah, Schumann Foundation. And it's not just a one-time award. We encourage the kids or the individuals that if they got an award this semester, come back the next semester, come back the next semester. So it's not just a one-time award. We want to continue to fund and support those that are looking for that next step in their education. So thank you all for having us today. And it's our honor to present this check to the Rio Rancho Public Schools for the Naviance program. We enjoy supporting that. It's a great program, and the results are fantastic. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. Dr. Cleveland, did you want to say anything for the
Just again, thank you.
No.
And we'll try to continue to help to get the word out. And it really does make a difference for some students, whether they can make it or not make it. So thank you for that, for that effort.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in again. Thank you. Okay, our next commendation is for Educators Rising 2022 National Award winners. So Larry Davis, our Director of Career Technical Education, will be presenting this. And I'll go ahead and have you invite everyone up as you go through, okay?
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Cleveland, thank you so much for your support of career technical education, of which Educators Rising is one of those programs. To start off, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Benton Spradlin. He's a program manager for CTE and really just out in the field all the time in supporting of these programs. He's the biggest champion of students that I've ever met. So tonight we're here celebrating the accomplishments of our students at Cleveland and Rio Rancho high schools. When I became an educator 25 years ago, my dad told me that an educator cultivates a thirst for learning. And these students have demonstrated that they've represented themselves, their families, and our district extremely well. And I would argue that it's one of our more important jobs of keeping these students and giving them that cultivation and desire to want to stay in their communities, of which they're a part of that fabric. So we'd like to call them up one at a time and recognize them for their accomplishment.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland, I'd like to just say a couple things here before we call the kids up. Just that we couldn't be more proud and impressed of these kids and their advisors for their accomplishments at the National Ed Rising Conference this past summer. Just a couple things. These teachers, Miss Ashley Knoll from Cleveland and Miss Amanda Gutierrez from Rio Rancho High School, are just, I mean, they're rock stars. They're gems of the teaching profession, and we are just so honored and proud to have them. Unfortunately, Ashley Knoll and her students won't be able to join us tonight. They were prepared to join us virtually, and I take responsibility for that miscommunication. But so this was, I just wanted to point out, in these events, these students are competing against hundreds of kids, both nationally and internationally, in these events. So they really rose to the top in these Ed Rising events. So the first student that I want to recognize is Isabelle Grace Reeves. She was the first place national winner in lesson planning and delivery from Cleveland High School, national winner. Second student I want to recognize is Amarina LaCour from Rio Rancho High School. She was fifth place. She was a fifth place national winner in lesson planning and delivery STEM. And next is Danley. We want to recognize Danley Ruiz from Rio Rancho High School, fifth place national winner for Ed Rising Moment. Then next we have Marcella Chella Eagletail from VSU Cleveland High School, seventh place national winner in impromptu speaking. Next is Samantha Baltz. We want to recognize 10th place national winner, children's literature pre-K. And then, of course, we have a certificate here for Miss Amanda Gutierrez from Rio Rancho High School for her incredible commitment and service to the Rio Rancho Public Schools and your Ed Rising students. And we also have the last certificate here is for Miss Ashley Knoll for her incredible commitment and service to Rio Rancho Public Schools and her Ed Rising students. Thank you.
Thank you. Girls, would you mind coming up for just a second? If I'm putting you on the spot, you can say pass. That's what I always tell my students, okay? But if you guys want to come up to the microphone right over here. And I want to hear tell us a little bit about your experience that you had as you went through this. What was it like? I don't know anything about it. So what was it like as you guys went through this?
Okay, so we competed in a room with a group of judges. And for me, I presented for children's literature, so I made and illustrated a was reading to little kids. And then they asked me questions about the book and its meaning and why it's important, and also like my career path and what I want to do in the future. And then not only like in the competition, but outside of that, they had rooms and speakers to talk about education and why it's important, and just a little bit more about it. And it was a really fun experience.
Awesome.
And it was cool. We had a really great group there too, so we had a blast.
That is awesome. And Marina, you want to share too?
I did lesson planning and delivery for STEM, so I actually wrote a lesson and I taught it at Equivalency. It was a 3-day lesson. It was the day that we had a snow day, like for 3 days. So I taught 2 days of it, and then a week later I had to go in for the 5th. I taught the lesson and recorded it, and then made a 10-minute highlight reel to present to judges, and then they gave me questions, and I just answered questions about my lesson, the experience of writing a lesson, and teaching in the classroom, and just what I learned about being a teacher and how I want to apply that in my future.
That is awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Ms. Gutierrez, do you want to say anything?
I just would like to say that this program is amazing and the students are absolutely amazing. This is just a small representation of what a great group of kids, like in my class today, we were talking about differentiated instruction and equity, and we were talking about all kinds of things that, you know, you wouldn't expect a 10th or 11th or 12th grader to be talking about, but they know these topics and they're discussing them and they're passionate. And so it's just great to see these kids say, I want to be a teacher. I want to make a difference. And they know how important relationship building is within the classroom, and that we don't just teach one, you know, just the academics, but we teach the whole child, and we have to care for each of our students. So I'm just really proud of these students, and especially these two girls. And I would like to say also, Marina won last year because of COVID and some other things. It was a virtual, and she won second place last year at nationals as well in lesson planning. So she is a lesson plan rock star right there.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Did you want to say anything? I think Dr. Cleveland would like to say a couple words.
Go ahead, and I'll speak after you.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. I just really, it's a passion of mine to recognize parents and their collaboration, because we got here as a team. And so if the parent of either of these child is in the room, could you please stand up and be recognized? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, today, the governor spoke to this issue and the importance of having our young people go into education. I want to share with you what I thought was just a shocking situation the last couple of years. Across our state, there were thousands of classrooms that never had a teacher all year long. They had a substitute off and on for most of the year. And so we definitely need to rebuild our teaching force, and it is really important that we do that. You know, one of the things that I shared today was a comment that, you know, there's just nothing that we can give students, nothing that we can give them that is better than a highly qualified teacher in their classroom. There are a lot of other good things we do for students and we support them, but there's nothing we can do that is any better than getting a highly qualified teacher. So we're excited that you're interested in education. We hope you will come back when you are through and work for us. We have so many teachers in our district right now who went through our school system and were students that have come back to teach. And it's just wonderful to see our graduates who come back and want to be part of this district as part of their adult life and as their careers. So the need is great. We are excited about the changes that we're seeing, that I think it's going to make education a more attractive profession again. And we're just delighted that you have an interest. So again, congratulations on your recognition. And when you're all done, you come back and see us, and I bet we'll have a job for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks again. All right. I have to say, you know, Miss Amarina, I've actually known since she was in elementary school. And that I think is a sweet thing, is to see these students who, you see as elementary schools, and just as they work through, and she's going to be graduating this year. And just, it's a really sweet thing to be in this community and see all the support that we give to our students and helping them to be successful. So I like Dr. Cleveland said, I really, really hope that you guys come back and you work here in our district. We would love to have you. So thank you so much. We'll give them one last. All right, we will now move into our reports. So our first report tonight will be an explanation of public school capital outlay grants, state match, and legislative offset. Michael Baker, our Chief Operations Officer, and Lauren Hatch, our Chief Counsel, will be presenting.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board. So this evening, probably talk more about the offset just because of the complexity in regard to the offset. But a couple of terms that I want to make sure that we're all clear on, and you probably already are. But when we talk about capital outlay, there is an agency that we communicate and basically do business with, and that is the PSCOC. And what that stands for is Public School Capital Outlay Committee. And so we throw these terms around a lot and these acronyms, and we really, sometimes we get confused. I get confused a lot, you know, where these agencies come from. And then that is a committee, and then they have under them what's called PSFA, which means the Public Schools Facility Authority. And those are the folks typically that we really deal with when it comes to capital outlay. And so when we're talking about capital outlay, specifically, we're talking about the funds that it takes to either build a new school or maintain maintain our schools. And typically it's the high dollar amounts. And what happened in our state a number of years ago in 1998, Zuni Public Schools filed a lawsuit against the state, basically claiming that the current system was unfair and that Zuni Public Schools, they did not have the appropriate amount of money from the state in order to upkeep their schools. And they basically stated that according to the state constitution guaranteed the establishment and maintenance of a uniform system of free public schools sufficient for the education of all children of school age. And so they argued successfully that they were not receiving enough funds in order to maintain their facilities. Their chief argument essentially was that in their district, the property valuations were much lower than, for example, other type of school districts. Let's just take, for example, the Albuquerque metropolitan area or even Santa Fe. So when you're looking at a tax base, for example, the Zuni tax base compared to Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, that of course, I shouldn't say of course, but our tax base is much greater. But not only is our tax base much greater, it's also much greater per pupil. And so as a result of that lawsuit, the legislature created the PSCOC, and then later the PSFA was created. Another acronym, NMCI, which is the New Mexico Condition Index. So what happened as a result of the lawsuit is the state came up with a mechanism to try to provide for equity in capital outlay for school buildings throughout the entire state. And so what they did is they came up with this condition index. And that condition index is a process that all school districts go through. We went through it very recently with our 5-year facility master plan that the school board fairly recently adopted. And that plan is a requirement of the state. And what the state does is they rate every single school in the state of New Mexico. And every school gets rated as far as from 1 to, I'm not even sure what the last, numbers, but it's in the thousands. And so 1 being the worst condition. So if you're in the worst condition, you have an availability of funds through PSCOC that if you were ranked, for example, 500, that you would not have the availability. And so there's essentially 2 lists. The first list on the New Mexico Condition Index is those schools that are ranked from 1 to 150. Those are the schools that are in the worst condition. Right now, none of our schools are on that top list. And so if you are on that list, you have the availability to ask for funding through PSCOC. The next list are the next 200 schools. And again, those schools are ranked, and we do have a few of those. We have a few of our schools that are on that list. But that second list, you can apply for money, but the requirements are a little bit more specific. So for example, if we need a roof replacement and one of our schools is actually on that list, we can apply for funds for roof replacement. So that was the system that was essentially set up. But the other thing that occurred was this thing called the offset. And so the offset is, once again, they said, well, it's not fair that certain districts have more legislators than other districts. Therefore, those districts have the availability to get more direct appropriations versus another district that may only have 1 representative. And so in our district, we have a number of representatives that represent the Rio Rancho area that we can ask, and we ask for direct appropriations. So because of the equity, the state came up with the offset. And so, and I will get into this much more in much more detail. And so the offset was put into place in order to create equity for those districts that didn't have as many representatives as another, or that there was more direct appropriations going to one school district versus another school district. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so kind of working back a little bit, for Rio Rancho, we have the offset affects us directly. Now, getting back to what this the match is, the match typically for this particular PSCOC grant, as you will, our match, I believe, used to be 60%, but it is 65%. So if we're going to ask for funds, we have to come up with 65% of the funds for a particular project. However, if a school is within the top 150, then 50%, there's a 50% reduction in the offset. Like I said earlier, we don't have any schools in the top 150, so this really does not affect us. Our current offset is just under $3 million. And what that offset is, it's an accumulation of direct appropriations from our legislators. So for example, this year, we received an award of a number of projects that's actually going to increase our offset. For example, we asked for a tower in order to provide for more connectivity for our students. That tower is estimated to cost approximately $450,000. So that direct appropriation will be used to add to our offset. Okay, So how does it all work? Next slide. So here's kind of a diagram that I believe kind of hopefully makes things a little bit clearer, because it is rather complex. So let's just say, for example, our legislative offset is $1,000. Like I said earlier, it's really just under $3 million at this point. Next year, it's likely to go up significantly. And let's say that we have a project and we ask for funding, and the PSCOC basically says, and not just the committee, but also the facility authority, they say, yes, you are authorized to get $4,000 for your project. In my example, I'm saying, well, the district's match is 60%, the state match is 40%. So the district match in dollars then would be $2,400. Well, how do I come up with that $2,400? Well, I take the $4,000, I multiply it by the 60%, which gives us the actual dollar that we have to put in for that particular project. Now, our offset is $1,000. So then you add the district match to the offset. Now you come up with $3,400. And so the actual award, even though we were awarded $4,000 for the project, the actual award is only $600. So you can see the impact of the offset greatly diminishes the value of these PSCOC grants. And this is, pretty much a typical, situation. So a lot of times they may not assist us. Now, over the years, what we do, if we do have a project, for example, if the school is on that second list, and there are certain projects such as roofing, HVAC, life safety, certain things that typically are high dollar amounts, but not like $40 million. So if we're going to do the project and we think we can get on the list, what Melanie will do is she'll submit an application. PSFA will come out, they'll do an evaluation, and they'll say, yes, that project is within our funding mechanism. So what happens then is, even though we know we're not going to get any money, we still apply, because what we do is over time we get a reduction of our offset. So in this particular case, if we were to do this project, as this is an example, our offset would actually be reduced. So what happens every year is we get an increase in our offset because of a direct appropriation. But when we do projects, and we use our bond money or SB9 money to actually fund those projects, it actually reduces our offset. So what happens over the years, kind of like this, it's kind of like a seesaw thing, is we get the offset increases, but as we do projects, it may decrease to some extent. I think maybe one other thing too is that when the state came up with capital outlay, is that they did provide for a reoccurring budget, essentially. So it's not like typically you'll have a grant. Typically a grant may just be for 1 year. But what the state did is they have supplemental severance tax bonds. And it's those bonds that are sold every year that replenish that fund. And so over the years, that particular fund has actually grown. And Dr. Cleveland can speak on this. She is actually on a task force to actually evaluate the offset and to take a look at either reducing our impact to the offset and maybe even changing the match. Now, getting back to the match, depending on what grant you are going for, it is up to the agency to determine what the match may be. So typically, if we're going for PSCOC funds, right now the match is 65-35. But if we go to another grant with another agency, the match could be much different. Sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes 60-40, sometimes 50-50. It depends on the particular agency and it depends on the grant. So our actual match, whether it be to the federal government or whether it be to the state government, would change depending on what we are applying for. And being that we're talking about capital outlay and the PSCOC, right now our contribution is at that 65%. So I talked a lot, and I'm just going to hand it over to Lauren.
I think you said it all. What questions do you have?
I'd like to thank you for that diligent explanation, because it makes my eyes cross just to hear it all. So thank you.
I understand that very well.
Thank you. Jessica, do you have any questions?
No, thank you. I think it is valuable information for the public to hear as well, because it can be misleading sometimes when they hear a dollar amount on an award, and when you see that actual dollars to the district is so greatly reduced. I think it's important for the public to have a better understanding of that. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And Jeff?
Mike, I got one question. How bad does these schools need to be for them to decide that they need the help they need? I mean, you talked about a rank from 1 all the way to 1,000. I'm just wondering, man, how bad off do they be? And is there a standard that they use to determine? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good question. So as you all approved our 5-year plan, so when the architects did an evaluation of our schools, there are standards that that need to be met. And so the PSFA, they have what's called adequacy standards. And so, for example, they have certain square footage per student population, and also a lot of ADA type of standards and just general engineering or building safety standards. A lot of them come from the International Building Code, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So when the architects are out looking at our facilities, they're doing that evaluation based on PSFA standards. And I could tell you this, just being throughout the state, there's some schools that are really in bad shape. And Rio Rancho, if you look at the state, really has fared very nicely compared to the state. And one of the reasons is we had those growth years. And during those growth years, what helped Rio Rancho is because of growth. And if you don't have the square footage per pupil, you have to grow. And you need facilities. And so during those growth years, Rio Rancho was awarded essentially over the years $98 million from PSCOC, a pretty good amount when you look at the entire state. So overall, we've done very well in that regard. But now those growth years are behind us. And so now we're looking ahead because we do have good facilities. We want to maintain those facilities and we want to keep them in good condition. And our challenge is this, again, going back to the 5-year plan, we have just under $380 million in facility needs. That doesn't include new buildings. Those are our current buildings. That's what we need over the next 5 years. And we really only have a couple of mechanisms in order to pay for that. The first one is our GO bonds. And typically we use our general obligation bonds to fund the maintenance of our buildings. And the second, which is much, much lower, is SB 9, which stands for Senate Bill 9, which was passed a number of years ago. And SB 9 authorizes the district to go to the voters and ask the voters for a $2 million tax increase. And so the district passed this a number of years ago. And every 6 years, we have to go back to the voters to get SB 9 reauthorized. And it typically comes out to a little bit more than $4 million a year. And then every 4 years, we go back to the voters and ask them to reauthorize our GO bonds, which for the number of years has been $60 million over 4 years. We will likely go up to $70 million. The next election will be November of 23 for the first drawdown to be around October of 2024.
Right. I know Dr. Cleveland wants to add some things.
Well, I don't have a lot. I think it really points out the role that growth perspective has, particularly on areas like ours. This is a convoluted system. And the intent was honorable. Thank you. As I was saying, it's a reason that you don't want to be a declining district for one reason, because it makes it very difficult, especially if you're a district in with the situation that we're in. And growth was basically our saving grace for several years to get the help that we needed. So we hope that maybe at some point we will grow again. But it is convoluted, very complex. Really, if you get to the very bottom, what it was trying to do was like Zuni is federal land. And they could not tax that land. And so they had no real means of being able to tax for school improvements. And that was true of places that have federal installations, have Native American reservations. And the idea is, how are they going to get money to be able to repair their schools? And Mike is right. Some of the schools in the state are in deplorable condition and need to be replaced. So they came up with this system. But like all systems, there are problems with it. And so what you have today is, take, for example, we need another early childhood center. We had it built. We could double our enrollment if we had it. It's with all of the things with offset and match, we can't access any of the money that's there. And yet we have a lot of children that are not being served, almost 500 children that are not being served. And we are not the only district that's facing this challenge right now, where people have needs, but they can't work within this system here. And so that's what the conversation is about, is should we have a moratorium or a reduction in match and offset just for a period of time? And the real frustration, talking with the lady who approached me about serving on the committee, was we have all this money and we would love to give it away, and we can't even get it out to school districts because of the system that we have put in place. So the system was good. We had good intentions. It was an attempt to equalize. It's one other factor that was maybe not mentioned, but it was also to try to minimize the impact of those districts with really powerful legislators. And maybe that was the number one driver, is you had a powerful legislator with a lot of seniority. You were in a better position to receive some of these allocations. And so again, it's not a bad system. It's just, it was overly complex, but there were unintended outcomes that no one really foresaw at that time. And so we are hopeful the state will set it aside or lower those expectations for at least a while so that we might be able to access it. And we did have LFC here, and they too expressed their concern and frustration, seeing the needs that they see, and districts can't access the money, and they don't want to sit on the money. They want that money to go out to schools where it's desperately needed. So we'll see where this goes, but it is an important issue to Rio Rancho School District. And it does keep us from being able to do some things that we would very much like to do. On top of that, when you get funded to capacity, you can't raise any more money. And that's the other issue. And the cost for everything has gone up so much now. The building a building now, is just so much more expensive. And so your bonding capacity for many districts, not just Rio Rancho, for many districts, is you can't raise enough money to build the buildings you used to be able to build.
And so what is the state going to do with that? And then my last comment is, it's a frustration in our state, but it's been alluded to through the presentation. If you don't take care of what you have, you're going to spend so much more later. So what we see is some of the buildings in our state that are in such terrible disrepair, if they had been taken care of earlier, would not have been in such desperate shape now. And yet when schools, they just didn't meet the requirements to be able to get that new roof. So the damage could, it rained and it continued to get worse and worse and worse. So it's really good, I think, that the state is looking at, let's just review this whole process. Maybe not throw it all out. Maybe we just, as I said, do a moratorium on it. Or maybe there might be a couple of areas that are high priorities, such as early childhood, maybe CTE, where those priorities might be exempted rather than all buildings being exempted. And there seems to be some legislators who really favor targeted relief rather than across the board relief. But we don't know where that's going to go. So, but this has been really helpful. It gives you a feeling of why it is so difficult to work through the process. But the intent was really simple to begin with. How do you help districts that can't tax, who don't have a tax base because they are on federal land or Native American land in particular? So anything else you want to add to that? Lauren, you.
Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, that in order for the system to change, it actually requires a statutory change. Because all this is set out in a statute. And if you want to be mesmerized by a statute, 22-24-5 is your number. So
right.
It's got the formulas in there, and then it has all the exceptions, and it changes every year. So this is something that's going to be a hot topic the next legislative session, and I believe later tonight we have a resolution from the board on that topic. So,
okay. Anything else, Mike, on your end? Any other questions before? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Really appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you. Okay. Our next report will be a student services update. Sherry Carver, Executive Director of Student Services, will be presenting.
Good evening again, President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. I bring to you tonight a report from the Student Services Department. Let me start with, what's the purpose of the Student Services Department? Why are we here? I've listed on the slide some supports and programs and services that we oversee in the Student Services Department. But the main reason we're here is to support students, just as our title says, to identify, address issues that interfere with the student's education. We're also here to support our schools and to support our parents. Tonight, I'm going to give my overview and my comments focusing on these areas in our strategic plan and how our department is implementing and engaging in these 4 areas. And I'll be talking about some of those services and programs that were listed on that first slide. Staff excellence. First of all, we want to hire and retain good people in our departments. How do we do that? We support our people that we've hired through mentoring. All of our nurses that are new to our district we provide good mentoring through our school resource nurse and our director of counseling. They spend a lot of time in our schools mentoring our new nurses. Our experienced counselors are paid to get out and mentor our new counselors that we've hired in our schools. And we also provide professional development and training for our folks. I have 3 directors who have worked hard all summer to come up with great professional development for our nurses and our counselors and our safe employees. And in fact, just last week we had Dr. Carolyn Stone. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a school counseling expert in ethics and law, and she presented to our counseling department, and they really enjoyed her presentation. The last thing I want to stress on staff excellence is customer service. I feel like that's an important aspect of our department because we handle a lot of parent calls and parent concerns that come in. And so we talk a lot about how we can support our parents and how we can find solutions and how we can all work together to find a solution. We listen a lot. We seek to understand where they're coming from. We listen a lot more, and then we try to find solutions that help our students and our parents. Engagement and innovation. One of our most important goals in supporting students returning to school after the pandemic was to focus on a consistent way to support students' social and emotional needs. To this end, we purchased 2 curriculums, Character Strong curriculum, and that's for grades pre-K through 8, and Signs of Suicide for grades 6 through 12. We not only purchased the curriculums, but we also purchased the professional development that went along with the curriculums from the providers themselves. And we felt like this was a way that our staff could be highly trained and implement the programs in a successful way and in a successful rollout. It allowed our staff members an in-depth look at the curriculums, best practices for implementation, and it allowed us to clarify any questions we had about the 2 curriculums. We've continued to prioritize our social emotional learning because we're seeing in our students still, even after a year of being back after the pandemic, increased anxiety, still seeing signs of a lot of depression, lack of social skills, inappropriate social behaviors, self-harm incidents, and harm to others' concerns. So we're continuing to focus a lot on social emotional learning for our students. Safety and wellness. Along with our curriculums that I just mentioned, we also continue to support in our department zones of regulation. If you've been in our elementary, you see zones of regulation all through those schools. And it's 4 zones that they teach their students about. For instance, if you're in the red zone, you're out of control. You're feeling out of control. If you're in the yellow zone, you're feeling frustrated. If you're in the blue zone, you're feeling tired. So the goal of that program is to teach these young kids how to get into the green zone where they're ready to learn, so they can recognize their emotions and turn that negative into a positive. We also support safe zones for students. We created posters for all of our schools. That's an example, I believe, from, I forget who's Gold and Black, one of our schools. So we created safe zone posters with the school colors and sent those out to the schools where they can post, this is a safe classroom, this is a safe school, this is a safe zone that you can come into and feel comfortable being in this zone with us. We have revised and communicated out the individual support plan and document for our transgender students. We support the McKinney-Vento homeless students through funding. Homeless students are considered homeless if they're in transitional housing, if they're doubled up, if they're living in a car, if they're living on the streets, or if they're living in RV parks or just in the park. And so last year we supported about 132 students who were classified as McKinney-Vento homeless students. We provided school supplies, coats, hygiene and laundry items, schoolwear, caps and gowns for graduation, free after-school programs through SAFE, and transportation and temporary housing. We also help them access medical, dental, and mental health services. And the last thing you see on there, we also support our students who are having self-harm ideations by referring them to outside mental health agencies that we have MOUs established with. Along with safety and wellness, a big part of our department is the health offices. And Lynn Wheeler is doing a wonderful job supporting our nurses. She supplied these numbers for me, and I was kind of taken aback when I saw those visits to the health offices that you see on your screen. Our nurses are busy, very busy during the day. And you can see the numbers of students that come in for prescription meds, for general health conditions, for medically complex procedures like trachs and G-tube feedings and medications. And then you can see the number of vision and health screenings that they performed and just the general number of visits that students go to the health office. These numbers are all from last year. Under operational excellence and innovation, I've listed two things there for you. The Student Support Center opened in August 2021. I think you've all visited that center. The purpose of this program was to provide an alternative learning placement for students who have been suspended from our middle schools and our high schools, and to determine their needs, provide counseling and other support, and to meet their academic goals until they could return to their regular school. So last year we had 419 referrals for short-term suspensions, and that is 3 days to 10 days. It was heavy on the high school side, but we did have a high number of middle school as well. We also, last year, we saw 71 students brought to due process hearing, and they were long-term suspended. I believe 68 of those students completed their long-term suspension at the Student Support Center. So we believe it was very successful last year, and we gauged that success on if students attended, if they had no behavior infractions while they attended the Student Support Center, if they completed assignments with passing grades, and if they had a plan or made a plan to return to their school to be successful. How are they going to return back and not do the same infraction again? So we have them write a plan on how I'm going to be successful when I go back to Cleveland High School or Rio Rancho High School. This year, we've already had 73 referrals in August. So I feel like the numbers are going to continue to increase. Paul Lockhart is the director of the program at that Student Support Center. We were able to support special education students this year because we added a special education teacher. So we're going to see even more, I believe, like I said before, students coming to that program and getting back on track, going back to their schools and being successful. That's the goal. We also have our alcohol, drug, and substance abuse counselor located at that site, and she is very busy. And we have one general education social worker there to support the student. The other item that I have listed there is the School Nurse Assistance Program that we call SNAP. And this is a new electronic health record solution that manages all student health records. Lynn, again, did a great job of getting out there and researching and looking at the options. And we chose SNAP because of its extensive support and full range of health management supports that the program offers. This program gives our nurses a better tool to manage, organize, and streamline medical documentation and to facilitate comprehensive health care, including diabetes, action plans, asthma documentation, and all their other health care needs. So we're getting great feedback from our nurses about this new program that we've implemented. And I'm really excited that we've put this in to support our nurses. And again, all the credit goes to Lynn Wheeler for implementing this, researching it, and she's provided all the professional development for our nurses during during the summer and during August. Challenges, two big ones there that I list: student attendance, student behaviors. Our student attendance from the STARS chronic absenteeism report from last year showed that our overall rates for our schools varied from about 5% to 55% of chronic absenteeism, and the district average was 25%. That number, unsurprisingly, is higher than pre-pandemic numbers. So what is chronic absenteeism? A student is considered chronically absent if they miss 10% or more of the school days. That's about 18 instructional days. And that includes both excused and unexcused absences. So it's all in there. Various reasons why students aren't coming to school. Some of them are they don't want to come for various reasons, including bullying. They don't understand the importance of attending. They kind of got used to that idea of staying at home and being able to do their work at home. Illnesses, including COVID, and things that come from poverty. So we're trying to find solutions to get kids back in school. Obviously, if they're not in school, they're not going to be learning. And the research shows that students who attend school show higher achievement levels than those students who don't. All the schools are currently working on their attendance improvement plans, and we're supporting them in our department to write those plans and come up with ideas and solutions and interventions and modifications. The other challenge that we're seeing is student behaviors. As I reported on the Student Support Center, those kids are there because of their behaviors and their infractions. Many of the behaviors we believe are due simply to the fact that students have forgotten to appropriately how to communicate and live in a social environment and engage with their peers and authority figures. So our administrators are working on that. They're following the discipline process and the matrix, and they're doing everything they can to improve student behaviors. Planning for the future and opportunities. We're going to continue to keep at the forefront the question in our department: are we meeting the needs of our students? Are we meeting the needs of our parents? We'll continue to review our processes and procedures. One process that we continually look at is the transfer process. We processed over 2,600 transfer requests last year. That includes in-district and out-of-district. Is that process working for our parents? So we'll continue to look at that. That's just one example. Student policies, we're continually looking at student policies. One that's come to light just recently is the dress code. So we're going to be looking at the dress code. Cleveland High School, the student government, has brought their recommendations to us. And the next thing we're going to do is look at community surveys and parent surveys on what their thoughts are on the dress code. And we'll continue to seek out professional development and training opportunities for our nurses and counselors and staff. Celebrations. I like this slide. I had up there fully staffed on counselors, but we're almost fully staffed. Mariah reminded me that we have a half-time position at Shining Stars Preschool that's not filled. So we currently have 45 general education counselors hired. We have 1 alcohol, drug, substance abuse counselor, and we have 3 GE social workers. in our department that we oversee. That's a good ratio. It's about 377 to 1. The national average is 415 to 1. And the national recommendation is 250 students to 1 counselor. So we're doing pretty well. I'm excited about the number of counselors that we have and the experienced number of counselors that we have. The nurses, I had up there before today that we were fully staffed, but Lynn reminded me that we still have a vacancy at Enchanted Hills Elementary, and she is looking for a nurse at Enchanted Hills Elementary. We have all of our health assistants in place, and a celebration is they all survived COVID, and they're seen on the downhill slide of COVID reporting, and they're enjoying that. We have additional funding coming in for McKinney-Vento and our homeless students. I want to give kudos to our Safe After School program. Noel was able to expand that program to include operating during the early release times and the extended learning time for staff. She has done a great job of taking over that program and leading the program. She currently has 854 students enrolled in the before and after school program. She's hired 24 mentors from Rio Rancho High School, Cleveland High School, and Cyber Academy. And Noelle Caceres, I keep talking about, she's the director who also oversees the Enchanted Mesa Daycare program, which is a service for our RRPS employees. She was able to keep the prices very affordable and low, and she currently has 45 students enrolled in the Enchanted Mesa Daycare, fully staffed there. We're receiving positive feedback from our curriculums that we have implemented. I want to point out that our transfers are still coming in from out of district. And I like reading through those transfers for the reason why they want to come here. Many times I see, well, RRPS has a more rigorous, varied curriculum. I want a better education for my child. Or I hear great things about RRPS. That's why I want my child to come here. So that's kudos to our district and the way that we're perceived. And last, I would just say that a celebration that I personally have is a cohesive team and the people I'm able to work with and serve with. As I mentioned, I have wonderful directors that are passionate about the work. Noelle Caceres oversees the before and after school program, Enchanted Mesa Daycare, and elementary parent concerns. Mariah Affentranger, she's overseeing counselors and GE social workers and COVID reporting still. Lynn Wheeler is overseeing the health offices and nurses, and then Paul Lockhart oversees the Student Support Center. That is the end of my presentation. I talked rather fast, but now I'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions or make any comments.
Thank you, Sherry, so much. Before we go into questions, Dr. Cleveland, do you want to add anything as we go? We'll go first to questions. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Jessica, no questions? Noreen Scott, anything?
I don't have any questions. Thank you for a very nice report.
Okay.
No questions. Thank you.
I do have some questions really fast. So it looks like we're doing so good. I think like there's so many good things that we're doing in the district. And I just want to thank you for doing all those things. And I've just heard really good things too, coming out of your department. Something that I was thinking about earlier today is, I think it was like a year ago. I think it was right as you were kind of transitioning onto into this role. We had a presentation to the board about that shape assessment tool. I don't know have you heard, I don't know if that ever made it over to you. But from what I remember, that shape assessment tool, it's just a way to look at our district's mental health and to make sure that everything's looking good. And I've had a couple of people in the community, people who weren't involved in that presentation, who have asked me about it. And so I don't know if maybe we've had any time to really look at that shape assessment tool. It comes from the New Mexico Department of Health. And I think it's really just an assessment tool to look at what we're currently doing to see if we're missing anything in that way.
We are still working with UNM and looking at the results of that SHAPE assessment, but it's kind of fizzled out a little bit, and the people that were overseeing that assessment are no longer at the Department of Health.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a lapse in employment there. So, but I can definitely continue to reach out and.
Yeah, I had recently someone ask me about it, and I was like, I don't know. So I thought I would ask since you were giving the presentation tonight. So thank you so much. Yeah, if there's any updates on it, I would be grateful to know. But Dr. Cleveland, do you have anything for me?
Yeah, I would just, but did you get a chance to say anything? Just
Yeah, I asked them.
Yeah. Okay, I want to be sure. There are a lot of good things going on. We really do have some challenges right now, and I think, we want to be honest, we do. We look at our hearings, for example, they're about double what they were before the pandemic. And so we do have some real needs in our community and our families, some of our kids, really tough place right now. And we're seeing that exhibited through our schools. And so having these programs in place are really essential to try to help as we try to move back to a more normal situation. But certainly it has been, we have seen the needs of students greatly increase over the last few years. And behavior is part of that. Why we've had the Student Support Center, because it's enabled our students to stay in school. And it's almost about 4 took advantage of finishing there and really did not have to be put out and have to stay at home. But we know they don't stay at home. They're finding other things to do. So we believe that the center was a really wise investment on the part of the board. And we think it has been enabled students to continue their education. That being said, we've still got, as a community, a school district, we've still got a lot of work to do before we get back. And it's just somewhat discouraging to just see some of our folks are really hurting. And they really have a lot of stress in their personal lives and their families' lives. But I want to commend all of our support staff who work so hard to, despite all those challenges, to make it work every day. And all of these things enable our teachers to be able to do their job. They're saying the same thing. They're just seeing more challenges in their classrooms. So we're going to stay on it. But I'm glad we have this department, all of this support. It really does help our students going through a tough time. I've said this before, but the psychologists and historians are saying the pandemic will go down in history as one of those marker events that changed people's lives significantly. And whether it was the beginning of World War II, or whether it was the Great Depression, whether it impacted people in significant ways. And COVID is going to be another one of those historical markers that really impacted the lives of everyone who went through it. So I thank you for your report, and it really gives us a good picture of all of the things that we have in place to support our students. I'm really glad we have it, because I think if we did not, our situation would be grim, and it's not grim, but it is challenging, and we've got to move again and get our students, as you said, back used to going to school. I don't know if you saw the political cartoon in the Albuquerque Journal, but it had the quote about, half of success or something like that is just showing up. And well, no one had said, no wonder we've got some problems, because when you don't come to school, you can't learn. You don't come to school, you can't get these services. So we're really hopeful that our attendance will pick up again, and we think it will. And we'll begin to work toward a better future for our kids. But it has been a real challenge these last couple of years, and we're seeing a lot of time and effort having to go into pulling out of that and making it work. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate it. Okay, our next report will be on communication strategy and engagement update. Beth Pendergrass, our Chief Communications Strategy and Engagement Officer, will present. I always love to say that whole thing right there.
I don't love saying it all the time.
I'm like,
Good evening, President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present to you this evening on communication strategy and engagement in Rio Rancho Public Schools. First slide, please. I always like to start my presentation with thanking my team. I work with an incredible group of individuals who are very talented and hardworking, and so nothing in this presentation happens without them and without us working together to accomplish those things. So first, I would like to say thank you to them. You can see a little department overview, our main areas of focus. I'm not going to read each of them to you. That kind of gives you an overarching kind of look at what it is that we're doing in our department. Next slide. So in addition to overseeing the implementation and the development of the strategic plan, we also indirectly support the plan in a number of ways. And so I'm just going to take you through a few of those this evening. Next slide. So under staff excellence, I added a couple of the critical initiatives. There's 4 under staff excellence, but the 2 that we directly impact in the communications department is our recruitment efforts and also our employee retention. And we talked a little bit when Mike Chavez presented on the recruitment piece, is the work that we're doing in the advertisement and trying to get the word out to recruit for those positions. So we're really trying to support that effort in addition to looking at other creative ways where we can help encourage recruitment. Staff recognition, which is a huge part of retaining our employees. You know, an employee who feels like they are appreciated and that they're doing something that is recognized always plays a part, I think, in making someone feel special. So we oversee a lot of the staff recognition programs in the district. And then recently, Dr. Cleveland and I just joined the National Teacher Morale Collaborative through EAB. And so the point of that is to work with other districts, and the group will provide insights and tools to help improve teacher morale. So we haven't started that yet. It starts next week, and we're hoping to really gain some insight from that to see what we can leverage in our school district. Slide. Under engagement and innovation, I kind of really focused on the goal that really supports our CTE efforts. That's a big part right now on what we're supporting in communications, particularly around the areas of our partnership opportunities, legislative needs, and communicating the district's work in CTE. It's really interesting how many people will call my office and they say, hey, we want to get involved in CTE. So I'm constantly sending people to Larry or Todd or Carl and trying to make those connections. So that's really exciting. Next slide. Safety and wellness, in those areas, you know, Sherry did a great job of presenting a lot of that safety and wellness information. We really try and support that area with our parent university or sessions where we're engaging our community, our parents, our staff members on those safety issues, and really trying to help them understand what those are and what they can do to help us. And then also leveraging our partnerships, you know, with the University of New Mexico, the Health Sciences Campus, and the Rio Rancho Police Department. Those are just a couple examples. Sorry, I went way back to Idaho there. Next slide. Operational excellence. I really think that this is an area that we all support. This is the work that we're doing, but particularly stakeholder engagement. I mean, that's what we're here to do. We're here to engage our stakeholders, and that's a big piece of the transparency and how we can better be partners to our community. So next slide. New this year, so during Mike Chavez's presentation, I talked a little bit about the digital ID recruiting. We're really seeing some great progress in that area, so we're continuing to work on that a little bit to see if we can get some leverage with our EAs and make some progress there. Facebook ads, we really want to continue to see how we can use our social media to recruit and engage outside of just our basic Indeed or on our website or that sort of thing. Our videography, we've done a lot of work with our videos. We have a really great videographer, Danny. We're going to continue to build on this. I think this is an area of communication that we need to leverage. This is kind of what you see a lot of businesses and corporations using our videos. So last year we focused on some shorter videos. This year we really want to focus on even shorter, those Instagram reels that are quick snippets, and you can put those shorts on YouTube as well. And so we want to continue to build on that. Our strategic plan implementation, so really keeping that front and center to the work that we're doing, working with our executive directors and our schools to make sure that they know what's in the plan and the part that they play to help us ensure that we are successful. And then continuing to reach out to our media. Once again, we're doing our media tips where we're collecting information from the schools and we're proactively sending those to the media, giving them something maybe on a slow day they can look at it and say, hey, you know, let's call Rio Rancho Public Schools to have this list of things that they're doing. And then really trying to reach out to our Spanish-speaking networks a little more and engage our Spanish-speaking families. I don't want to forget that, you know, because we do have a number of Spanish-speaking families. I'll actually go back for a second. I did want to mention, we're doing LinkedIn again this year, so we have our site set up. So now we just need to build on that and see what tools we can leverage in LinkedIn for possibly recruiting efforts. And then this year we've started our communications campus crawls. So we're actively going out to every single campus. We're taking Dr. Cleveland with us and other members of cabinet. And we're giving the school a chance to take us around and highlight what they want to show us. Give them an opportunity to introduce us to staff members who are doing cool things, to show us different projects they're working on. And that's all information we can take back then and find ways to share that with our community. So next slide. These are some highlights and numbers. YouTube, we have 2,200 subscribers. Our app, we have nearly 3,000 downloads. Peach Jar, we have 21,000 subscribers. And since we started Peach Jar, we've sent 1,300 flyers, which is the equivalent of 1.5 million sheets of paper saved and 181 trees. So we are happy that we have that electronic version for flyers. We established our electronic newsletter. So last time I presented to the board, I talked about wanting to move away from our antiquated system and do our e-newsletters. So we have moved that direction. We have over 700,000 sends with 54% open rate and 22% is the industry average. So that's pretty exciting. You can see there where our Facebook page reaches, Instagram, and then you can also see where our follower numbers are and how they've increased over the last year. Next slide. Also, Parent University, we have nearly 950 views from last year. That number, we always want to increase it. That's a great resource for parents. Our United Way campaign raised $117,000, and a lot of that is thanks to Claudia and the work she does. She managed that campaign for the district. Our continued partnership opportunities and leveraging those, I just put a couple examples on the screen. The dangers of social media. This is a Parent University we have coming up that we're doing in partnership with the Rio Rancho Police Department. This one is really important. This one I can't stress enough for parents. The police department is going to be talking about different apps that predators are using, how students are using emojis to communicate different things, and then of course cyberbullying, so it's an important one. Another example, we have NAOP and SEA doing an upcoming presentation and highlighting the work we're doing with our CTE. So those are two just great partnership things that we're working on. And I always like to highlight the website. You know, I know we rolled it out last year, but it's so much better than what we have had. It's professional, it's clean, and so I just like to highlight that. Challenges and opportunities for improvement. So the greatest thing about communication is there is always room for improvement because things are changing almost as rapidly as technology changes. There's always a new and better way to communicate, which is really exciting because then we can always look and continue to want to improve. But one of the challenging things right now is finding creative ways to engage our community beyond our staff and parents. Less and less people watch the local news. Less and less people read the newspaper. Nobody checks their mail anymore. You know, if I do get my mail, it probably goes in the trash. Unless you have a student in the school or you're an employee, you most likely aren't on our social media. So it's really trying to find those ways to engage our community. We go to service clubs, we attend community events, and generally you find it's the same people who are attending all those events. And so we're really trying to look for different creative ways where we can engage our community again. And then also for our families, finding creative ways to stand out from the clutter. Just consider how many e-newsletters you get in a day, how many emails you get, how many people you're following on social media. We really have to find those ways that we stand out, that people want to read what we have to say. And then getting our staff members to share good news. Educators are terrible about bragging about themselves. So that's part of our visits to the schools and really trying to see those things that they don't necessarily see as something wonderful. And then another thing is policy 913. This is our, it has a lot of things in it, but part of it is the social media process. And this is something that's really outdated that we need to look at and review, and really need to develop a system of tracking and capturing all the social media in the district, because a lot of that should be archived. It needs to be managed. And so we just need a better process for that. Next slide. So planning for the future, as you know, in the next year, we're going to have bond and SB 9 campaigns. So that's going to be huge over the next year and beyond. We're working on a video for the Safety and Security Department on active shooting situations. Staff recruitment, we're working on a video that goes beyond just the district, but also looks at the community, why Rio Rancho is a great place for people to live and work. And then engaging students and staff on our social media. I call them student takeovers or staff takeovers, where you work with them, and for a day, a student gets to run, for example, Instagram and show what the day in the life of a student is, or something like that. We have reestablished the district digest. This is to help improve communication between the district and the school sites for administrators, and so we're working on that again. And then I really want to work on our push notifications. These are the notifications you get because you have the app downloaded. So it's another great way to try and get something right in front of parents quickly. So those are some things that we're planning on for the future. So that was really fast. I talked faster than Sherry, I know I did. But I stand for questions.
Thank you, Beth. So good. I'm always so impressed by all of our communications in the district. I appreciate it. I do have just right at the end when you were talking about push notifications, is there a way, since I have like 4 students right in the district. So when anything happens in the district, I receive 4 text messages, 4 emails, and 4 phone calls. Sometimes, well, maybe the phone calls don't all come through, but everything else comes through. Is there any way to lessen that for?
Generally, the system takes it down to just one, so
It's just me.
duplicate. So I'd
I'll have to look at. Yeah, I'll just keep getting all these. I'm like, okay. And part of it is just different schools, I think, too. So thank you though for the presentation. Jessica, Tyler, do you have anything?
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Thank you. I like the takeover program.
I think that's
a
so
pretty
neat
good
too.
idea.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
so creative. And Dr. Cleveland?
Just, to build on what you said, our communications are stronger than they've ever been.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's really important that they are, given some of the challenges that we've been through. And I would rather have folks say to us,
Too much?
I'm getting too much.
I know, it's totally fine. I'm
Then
grateful.
I'm not ever getting enough.
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
never
agree.
getting. So I just want to thank Beth and her team. And we do get the information out better, higher level than we have ever done in the past. So just thanks for that.
Yeah.
I think Board Member Tyler would like to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as a parent having students in the district, I do really appreciate the quick and expedient communication. And sometimes it's funny, there's been a few glitches. So like the other day, there's been twice now where I've almost taken care of business with my kids. So, it's like a running joke because, the other day a notice went out. Of course, I knew my kids hadn't missed 7 days of school in a row, even though I was out of town for work for like 4. But I was like, yeah, I was certain that they hadn't missed all 7 days. So you can usually tell, but so I just wanted to tell the public, with the use of technology, there can be glitches. And so there is a little bit of that comes with the mechanisms that we use, but it's great to be able to get good, efficient information out at the drop of a hat. Even tonight while we're sitting here, I've gotten a few messages from Cleveland about, a homecoming event tonight that they're doing at the school. And it's a great way just to be able to keep parents in the loop on things and for us to be able to communicate with our kids then as well. So it's appreciated.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Anything else, Dr. Cleveland?
Oh, again, thanks. The old-fashioned things still happen too.
Yes.
This weekend, I got a call from a student and said, my boyfriend forgot to buy tickets for the homecoming dance. Is there anything you can do? Really? So we're so small enough as a community that we still get some of those. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to approve the consent. After we approve the consent, we're just going to take a 5-minute break in between our business. Is there any changes on our consent or any questions on the consent agenda?
No, Madam President, this is Board Member Jessica Tyler. I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeffrey Morgan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay, we'll go to a quick 5-minute recess.
Just can't help but wonder how that kid missed. I'm trying to be of service to everybody. You know, I get all this stuff. I picture all this stuff. Of course I can. You only have to live. And it does. But anyway, it worked out.
My son, but it was like, wow. And it was the more the prices were going to go up. I need money to go and do this because I don't carry cash anymore. So it was this big fiasco trying to get cash that and I go to work so early. So
You can submit cash and card.
I know. I was like, oh my goodness. I'd drive
Up to $40.
Live yet?
Huh?
Are we live
We
yet?
are not live, but we're about.
We're not live.
We're now in the business portion of our meeting. We'll start with item A, which is to consider the approval of joint powers agreement with the New Mexico School for the Deaf. And Jerry Reed, our Executive Director of Special Services, will present.
President Galbraith, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland. I want to present to you the joint powers agreement for Rio Rancho Public Schools and the New Mexico School for the Deaf preschool and kindergarten. New Mexico has two state schools of choice that the parents can decide what they want to go to. It's the New Mexico School for the Blind and Visually Impaired and the New Mexico School for the Deaf. So the New Mexico School for the Deaf has a satellite in Albuquerque that's early childhood and kindergarten. And that's who we are doing our joint powers with today. We'll have 2 students attending this year. And first time in 20 years, they have increased their prices from $7,500 per student to $10,000 per student. Again, that's the first increase in over 20 years. We basically count the students in our child count, and then we are supposed to transport. We've gotten lucky. We worked with Mexico School for the Deaf because we were having our transportation problems. They've actually agreed to transport at no additional cost to us for this year. So that was very nice of them. Students that attend first grade through 12th grade at Mexico School for the Deaf, we have 5 students from Rio Rancho that attend. They get to choose whether they can attend their home school or there. When they attend first through 12th grade, we do not count them when they attend there. To serve our students with hearing impairments within the district, we have 2 part-time audiologists, 5 sign language interpreters. We serve 9 students with hearing impairments in our district. And we have our audiologists see 107 students on their caseload. That means they have a hearing aid or some kind of hearing impairment. But then they also screen many districts across the I'm sorry, many students across the district. That's all I have for you. We'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Jessica Tyler, any questions? Noreen Scott?
No questions.
And Jeff and Morgan?
No questions. Thank you.
And Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We'll go for a motion.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I make the motion to approve of the joint powers agreement with the New Mexico School for the Deaf.
And this is Secretary Noreen Scott. I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Noreen Scott. And Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Item B, to consider the approval of the RRPS Preventive Maintenance Plan for 2022-23. Melanie Archbeck, our Executive Director of Facilities, will present.
Good evening, Madam President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. I'm not sure if it's on.
I can't tell. Is her microphone on? Do we know? Can you? I think it's on.
I don't see it.
Maybe it's off now. I know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So what I have before you today is the preventative maintenance plan. Much like the 5-year master plan, it is a requirement if we are to receive any award from PSCOC or PSFA. I think you guys heard a lot about that earlier today, but this is one of the requirements if we were to actually go after an award and receive it. The main purpose is it aids in a shift from reactive to from a reactive to a proactive approach with maintenance, repairs, and replacements. This approach will not only aid in operations running efficiently and lowering costs, but also will extend the life of the building systems and equipment. So outlined in the entire document kind of talks about how we treat emergencies and different priorities. And then it gives an example of what all of the different repair and maintenance my staff does. So it's the maintenance team, the grounds, as well as the custodial. So all of that's identified in there. But the main objective of the district is to extend the life of the systems, effective use of available manpower and resources, a reduction of maintenance and replacement costs through effective preventative maintenance measures, compile and maintain an inventory list of all equipment with applicable service activities, and be proactive in assessing building needs to inform future funding requests. Were there any questions?
Do you have any questions from the board? No? Any questions? And then Dr. Cleveland, did you want to?
Yeah, just as I said earlier, it is really important that this helps us maintain what we have and, makes our the life of our facilities last longer. And so it's an extremely important thing for us to do.
Yeah, I'm really grateful we had that presentation earlier. That helps me to remember what all of those, how all that interacts together. So thank you. Anything else from you before we go into?
No, it worked out perfectly that the presentation was earlier.
Yeah, it did. Okay. So do we have a motion on this item?
It's Board Member Jeff Morgan to make a motion for the approval of the RRPS Preventive Maintenance Plan for 2022-2023.
Board Member Tyler will second.
We have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Jessica Tyler. And then Kim, you want to take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Scott?
Yes.
Board Member Tyler?
Yes.
President Galbraith?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, our next item is to consider the approval of lease agreement between Rancho Public Schools and the Garza Group, LLC for property at 3180 Northern Boulevard, Northeast in Rancho, New Mexico. And Lauren Hatch will present.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Cleveland, I stand before you. I had to beat Michael right up to
He's excited to go.
excited to present his item next. But I stand here with Noelle, who, if you remember from the presentation from Sherry Carver earlier about the student services, she has 3 directors. Noelle is one of them. And one of the programs that Noelle oversees is the Enchanted Mesa Daycare. The Enchanted Mesa Daycare is a daycare service for district employees.
Can I give some facts?
Yeah, Noelle's going to give some facts about it.
So Sherry said 45 children. Today, we're now 46. We have a capacity of 53, so we're definitely getting there. We have 4 different classrooms. We have an infants classroom. We have 11 kids in there. Toddlers, 11 kids. Preschool, 15 kids. And pre-K, 9 kids.
Wow.
So we have a nice variety. And if you ever get a chance to go inside, it is so nice and so enjoyable. When I leave, the staff are excited. The parents that I see in the area are excited to have them there. I've heard nothing but amazing things over there. So they're doing a great job.
That's awesome. I actually drove by there today on my way here and saw. I didn't notice it. I just noticed all the cars. Everyone's going in to pick up their kids as I drove by. So it was kind of.
So
I'll have to
the
look.
two big shade structures are huge outside. There's
to
no
look for 'em.
trees around the building,
Mhm.
so it's nice. They can have snack outside, and it kind of really blocks the heat of the sun around here in August. So
It's great.
So the Enchanted Mesa Daycare was originally housed in the old Shining Stars area. And when the new building was created, Enchanted Mesa Daycare was moved to a facility on Northern Boulevard, which you guys have seen by the bus barn. It's a really good facility. That was in 2019, and there was a lease created and approved by the board at that time for 3 years. This is a new lease for an additional 3 years with an option to extend for 2 more years. Essentially, it's the same terms as the original lease. The the one, I'm going to say major difference, but there is one difference in that the rent is a little bit higher. It's for $3,695 a month. Previously it was $3,000 a month. And this is to account for some improvements that were made by the landlord for fire suppression. So other than that, unless you have any questions, we'd recommend approval.
Okay.
Lauren, what does that come to a square foot?
I don't know, actually. Do you know what the square footage is? I don't know.
Okay.
We can get
But
that
we can
number
get
for
that
you.
for you.
We can get that number for you.
It is 600,
3,600.
3,600. I didn't see that.
Oh, so
And it's how much?
so 30 and then 36. Yeah.
$1 square.
$1.20.
$1.20. Okay.
102-ish, 103.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do you have more from Noreen?
No, I move approval for the lease agreement between Rio Rancho Public Schools and the Garza Group for property at 3180 Northern Boulevard Northeast.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Noreen Scott and a second by Jeff Morgan. And then Kim, will you take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott,
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Dr. Cleveland, do you want to say a few words?
I just wanted to say this is a huge teacher staff retention tool for the school district. It keeps a lot of folks who are able to continue to teach and work and have their children with quality daycare. And so I believe it's one of the factors that's enabled us through even really challenging times to be able to keep some of our best staff. And so we're really appreciative of the board's support of the Enchanted Mesa Daycare. And I know those families are very appreciative as well. And they do, of course, pay. They do pay for their children to attend. And I think that's important to be known.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Thank you. Okay, I would love to visit there sometime if there's not, I don't know what all the red tape is in front of that, but I would love to see it
No,
sometime.
it would be great if the board would like to go, and at some time we can make an arrangement for the board to see it. We were really lucky because after we saw the other one that had to be torn down, this had been a daycare. And so we were able to transition in, and for a while it was really questionable whether we were going to be able to even offer it. So it was really good that this worked out for us.
No, it's great. Thank you. All right, our next item is to consider the approval of SFE Contract Amendment Number 3, adjustment to meal equivalency and dinner rates. Michael Madrid, our purchasing director, and also David V. Hill, our executive director of finance, will present.
Thank you, Board President Galbraith, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cleveland. I kind of hope I get extra credit for being enthusiastic.
Yes.
As discussed, this is the third amendment to the Southwest Food Excellence Contract with Rio Rancho Public Schools. We previously identified two other amendments to the board. On June the 30th, 2023, we presented amendment number 1, which extended the contract term from July 1, 22 through June 30 of 23. Amendment 2, we discussed unit cost adjustments for students and the billable rates that the district would be charged by Southwest Food Excellence. And what you have this afternoon is amendment number 3, which takes into consideration meal adjustments for meal equivalencies, dinner rates, and seamless summer. What I'd like to do is identify some significant dates as it relates to the contract with Southwest Food Excellence. On April the 26th, 2021, we presented to the board a recommendation to award the procurement to Southwest Food Excellence, and we were granted that approval. The terms of the initial RFP identified a 1-year term, but it also allowed for 4 1-year extensions, not to exceed a total of 5 years in total. Excuse me. On May the 10th, 2021, we received approval by the Public Education Department for the fixed price contract between Southwest Food Excellence and Rio Rancho Public Schools. And as stated, we previously presented amendments 1 and amendment 2. The benchmark for amendment number 3 is the Consumer Price Index, we took into consideration what those percentages were. In 2022, that percentage was 10%. In 2021, it was 3%. And in 2020, it was 4% for an aggregate compounded of 17%. We negotiated a meal adjustment rates of 6.9%. And if you look at the back of the memo, there's amendment number 3, and there's a table within that amendment that identifies the different costs for the meal equivalency, the dinner, and the seamless summer program. David, I don't know. With that, we'll stand for questions.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions from the board? Any questions? Any questions? Do you have anything to add? Okay.
Is that me?
I don't know.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I make a motion for the approval of the SFE contract amendment number 3, adjustment to meal equivalency and dinner rates.
This is Secretary Noreen Scott. I'll second.
I have a motion by Jeffrey Morgan and a second by Noreen Scott. And then Kim, if you'll take a roll call vote for us.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott, Board Member Tyler. Motion carries 4-0.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is E, to consider approval of resolutions for the 2022 legislative session for submission to the New Mexico School Boards Association. So all of these resolutions we've already discussed. Are there any questions or any comments to be made on these?
I would like to say thank you for pulling this all together and getting our thoughts down in a very nice order. So thank you, Kim. I assume that was you. So thank you.
Yeah. And I definitely want to echo that. Thank you so much for doing that and putting that together. Dr. Cleveland, do you have anything on these before we?
Just a quick correction. It's the 2023 legislative session.
Oh.
And we all did catch that. And so
Oops.
it is
Okay.
for this coming session. I also wanted to thank Kim for all of her work on this. It was a tremendous amount of work. So thank you.
So on that note, does that change the numbers of our, can we just leave it as? In this 2022, so we're okay. Okay. 23. Okay, so our resolution numbers are good.
We're
Okay.
okay.
I just want to make sure the numbers didn't have to change too.
Yeah,
Okay.
22-23 school year, and we number them based on the first of the years.
Okay, perfect. And I think Jessica has a motion for us.
Yes. This is Board Member Tyler. I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolutions for the 2023 legislative session for submission to the New Mexico School Boards Association for resolution number 22-002, resolution number 22-003, resolution number 22-004, resolution number 22-005, resolution number 22-006, resolution number 22-007, resolution number 22-008, resolution number 22-009, and resolution number 22-010.
Easy for you to say. I second.
We have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Noreen Scott. And Kim, will you take a roll call vote for us on these?
I don't have to repeat the motion, do I?
No, please.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Member Tyler.
Yes.
And President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you so much. All right. We're excited to get those in. Thank you for everyone's hard work. Okay, now we'll have our second reading of changes to policy 906 on transportation. It looks like Michael Baker will be presenting this for us.
Yes, that is correct. Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the school board, I'm filling in for Executive Director Lynn Carl for this evening. She is working late. And the second reading essentially is those changes match what the statute talks about. There's essentially no changes to the way that the bus service is doing it as compared to the policy. The language is right out of the statute. So I will stand for questions.
Any questions? Any questions? You have a motion?
Member Tyler, I'd like to make a motion to approve changes to policy 906 transportation.
Secretary Noreen Scott, I'll second.
We have a motion by Jessica Tyler, a second by Noreen Scott, and then Kim, if you'll do a roll call vote for us.
Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott, Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you so much. Yes. Now we'll go, and I think we'll do both of these if you want to just present both of them. So it's our second reading for changes to policy 1008, student and school rights and responsibilities, and also item H, the second reading of changes to policy 1010, hazing, harassment, intimidation, bullying, and menacing. And Sherry Carver, our Executive Director of Student Services.
President Galbraith, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland, the board had no additional changes to those two policies, so I'm bringing tonight to you the second reading for policy 1008 and the second reading for policy 1010, and I will stand for questions.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any questions? Okay. We have a motion.
Board Member Tyler, I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to policy 1008, student and school rights and responsibility, and policy 1010, hazing, harassment, intimidation, bullying, and menacing.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I second.
Okay. We have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Jeff Morgan. And Kim, will you take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. I feel like you've been up here a lot with us today. It's been a lot. All right. Our second reading of changes to policy 1023, restraint and seclusion. Sal Maniaci, our Executive Director of Safety and Security, will present.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. The Safety and Security Department has no additional changes to the initial presentation that we gave the other night. I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Dr. Cleveland, do you have anything you want to add on these? Okay.
We discussed this at some length last time.
Yes. Yes. Yes, we did. Okay. We have a motion.
Board Member Jeff Morgan, I make a motion for the second reading of changes to policy 1023, restraint and seclusion.
Board Member Tyler will second.
Okay, motion by Jeff Morgan and a second by Jessica Tyler. Kim, can you take a roll call vote for us?
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Board Member Tyler,
Yes.
and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and then we'll take the remainder of our policies. Well, David Mann will be presenting these. It'll be our second reading of changes to policy 208, meetings of the board, second reading to policy 209, agendas and order of business of the board meetings, and second reading to changes policy 211, minutes of board meetings. And once again, David Mann, our general counsel, will present these.
Madam President, thank you, Dr. Cleveland, members of the board. There were no changes proposed to any of these three policies, and so I recommend a do pass.
Okay. Any questions? Anyone? Okay. We have a motion.
Board Member Tyler would like to make a motion to approve the changes to policy 208, meetings of the board, changes to policy 209, agendas and orders of business for board meetings, and changes to policy 211, minutes of board meetings.
Secretary Noreen Scott, I'll second.
We have a motion by Jessica Tyler and a second by Noreen Scott. And Kim, if you'll take a roll call vote for us.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Secretary and President Galbraith.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure someone that came to the mic and gave a presentation, but they were going to tell us what some of the recommendations to students gave for dress code. I don't want to miss that. They was excited about presenting it. I'm not sure who that was.
I have those recommendations and bring that policy.
Okay, all right. Okay, I thought you was going to present it tonight. That's why I wanted to see what they were saying. Because that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So as that comes, and I don't know if maybe it's even appropriate to have some of those, just to look at some of those initial things that are coming back. It could be put into our folder. But
yeah, and I think that Sherry had also mentioned we would do some parent surveys and things like that in addition to it before we looked at policy change, correct?
Okay. Sounds good. So we'll go into our advanced planning, which that helps us with our advanced planning. we'll have September 12th, which is today, is our deadline for these for the legislative resolutions. September 26th, there'll be an audit committee meeting in the training center at 4:30. Also on the 26th will be a board meeting at 5:30 here in this boardroom. October 5th will be a half day of classes for students, afternoon professional development and planning for our staff. The 6th through the 7th will be fall break, which is wonderful. October 10th, we'll have a board meeting here at 5:30. Also, on the 12th, we have the NMSBA region meeting. That will be in Moriarty at their public schools, and we should be receiving more information about that in our emails. On the 24th, we'll have both an audit committee meeting at 4:30 and then a regular board meeting at 5:30. And then on the 28th, there'll be a Rio Rancho High School and a Cleveland High School football game. That will be at 7 o'clock, and that will be at Cleveland High School. So is there anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I would like to get some idea early on if you're planning to attend the Region 4 meeting, because we will have to put a purchase order through for your attendance.
Okay.
So if you'd let me know, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'll have to look at our calendars, and if we can let Kim know here pretty soon.
I know
It's a
that I am
Wednesday.
out of town, so I will not be attending.
Okay.
Okay. I do not believe I will be attending either, but let me look at my calendar and I'll let you know for sure. Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else on our advanced plan? Everyone.
We'll try not to do 3 reports. We just had the.
It was, I think it turned out good.
It was okay, but we'll try to keep it.
Testing.